I was going to talk about, you heard a business case. I was going to talk more about personal lifestyle. But before that, I wrote an article yesterday that I think is relevant to this. So about talking about time versus impact in the life of an entrepreneur, I'm going to talk about the biggest challenge that everyone who has a startup has. So I was trying to think, okay, you have a new idea, you think it's great, you think it's going to change the world, you think that you will make the world a better place. And what is your biggest enemy, right? And I've come to the conclusion that the biggest enemy of startups is not your competition. I mean, the case of Alec was different because he was doing something, maybe a more developed area, where there was a lot of competition. And there was a transformation going from newspapers to online, and maybe people trying to get in the game, and Craigslist be the elephant in the room. But I'm sure that many of the ideas that you have for startups, your biggest competitor is not another startup. Your biggest competitor is that people don't give a damn about you, right? And they don't give a damn about your product. The biggest competitor you have is indifference. It's that you think you're going to change the world, and the rest of the people don't give a fuck, right? And they say, well, I don't think what you're doing is so radical. I don't think what you're doing is so amazing. I don't really care about what you're doing, okay? And I think that is a realization. So I wrote this article yesterday about the story of Fon, the company that I'm the CEO of now, and how Fon was really a fight against indifference. So I'm going to start with this and move on then to the time versus impact. So what happened at Fon? Fon is now the largest Wi-Fi network in the world. We have 7.5 million hotspots. Our partners are Google, Microsoft, Sequoia, Index, Atomico, and we've been profitable for 3 years. And we're very proud, and we're very happy, and we're the largest Wi-Fi network in the world, and we rejoice. But for the first 3 years of the company, in spite of the partners we have, we almost went bankrupt, right? And I just wanted to focus on why we almost went bankrupt. And we almost went bankrupt because of the indifference of people, okay? Because people didn't care about our key concept. It was that if you share a little Wi-Fi at home, you roam the world for free. People just didn't care, okay? So we thought we had this amazing idea, which was that we could hack everybody's routers. So the Wi-Fi router would send 2 SSIDs, one for you and one for the rest of the world. And you would share some Wi-Fi from your home, and others would share with you, and you would roam the world for free. We thought this was a gift to humanity, okay? And I tell you that for quite a while, nobody gave a damn, okay? We gave hundreds of thousands of routers away for free that ended up in people's closets, okay? And we almost died as a company, okay? So how is it that we're doing so well now? What happened? And I'm going to give you an example that relates to human organs, okay? I think human organs are, of course, much more important than having Wi-Fi everywhere, but you'll get the point. In America, human organs, when you say you're an organ donor, you have to say you're an organ donor, okay? And in Spain, you are an organ donor unless you say you aren't. Is that clear? So if you die in Spain, your lungs, your heart, your kidneys go to other people. Unless you say, hey, I don't care about other people. I don't want to donate my organs. You know, I believe in whatever, my body after I die. And then you're not an organ donor. But almost nobody says that. Because when you're being asked to say, wouldn't you like to help other people? Wouldn't you like your organs to save the life of other people? To actively say that you don't want that, it's kind of like disgusting, right? But in America, they say, would you like to donate your lung, your heart, and you're like, I'm alive, my heart is here. You know, you don't want to, of course you don't want to. Because you don't want to put yourself in the situation of a person that gives out your heart, your lung, your kidney, because you don't want to die, right? Okay, now let's go back to my humble world of Wi-Fi. Why Why were people indifferent, except, of course, the 300,000 geeks who sign up for everything, many of which in this room? So we were very... What happened with Wi-Fi is this. If you ask people, would you like to share a little Wi-Fi at home and roam the world for free? People say, yes, that's a great idea. I'll share a little Wi-Fi at home so I can connect for free everywhere in the world. But they do nothing about it. They don't go to phone.com to buy their routers. They don't do anything. And that's how we almost failed. So 3 years into this failing startup, I had like an epiphany moment and said, what if we could ask them the other question? What if we could ask them, hey, you're sharing Wi-Fi and you are now roaming the world for free. Would you like to disconnect? And nobody wants to disconnect. Of course they like the benefit. If you tell them they're already sharing Wi-Fi. So we completely redesigned the company from a B2C company to a B2B company. We made deals with the largest operators in the world, and we're entering the States this year. And we did deals with British Telecom, with Belgacom, with SFR, with SoftBank of Japan, with operators in Taiwan, with OI in Brazil, with just many operators. And now what operators do is overnight, they hack or reflash or change the firmware while you're asleep. At 3 in the morning, you don't even know. Your Wi-Fi dies for like maybe 60 seconds, and then you're a hotspot. Recently in Belgium, for example, 500,000 of people in Belgium woke up in the morning, they were a hotspot. Their homes were sending another signal, many of which, by the way, didn't even know. They said, oh, now there's public Wi-Fi everywhere. They didn't even know that it came from them, right? But then, of course, you tell them what's going on, and you tell them, would you like to sign off? But once they see the benefits, of course they don't want to sign off, right? So the lesson here, and what made us who we are now, is that we decided, we accepted that most of the people in the world don't care much about innovation at all. And that while they say that they like innovation, if you ask them to do something about innovation, you will only get the 300,000 geeks that I was talking about, some of you included. The rest of the people are not going to try it out, okay? So now after we've gone through this lesson, let's go over this one. The other, this is yes, I'm feeling professorial today. So the second lesson here is there a correlation between time and impact when you are an entrepreneur? And this is only about you guys being entrepreneurs, okay? Of course, there's a correlation between time and impact when you're a lawyer billing by the hour, okay? But that's not the question we're going to address here. The question we're going to address here, is there a correlation between time and impact when you're an entrepreneur? And I am going to argue that there isn't, okay? Next. Should I do it? No. It's like the end. Do you want me to do it? It's a Prezi. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see if we get there. Next. Okay, so innovation, right? Innovation, if you think about it, if you think about people like Jack Dorsey and Twitter, and you think about the moment, the epiphany moment, when you say, hey, my normal company is failing, but I have this tool that could really help people communicate, this broadcast SMS. That moment in Jack Dorsey's life, and Evan Williams and B. Stone, is worth more than probably 99% of his life when you're measuring his productivity as an entrepreneur, except the next one where he has the Square idea, right? And of course, the implementation of the idea is a very important thing. And actually, Jack Dorsey in Square is playing a much more important role in an implementation of an idea, which is somewhat similar to phone in the sense that you have to make it B2B. And Twitter was about consumers. But still, what I'm trying to say is that moment is worth more than anything else in the life of the entrepreneur. And so the correlation between time and impact in the life of entrepreneur doesn't apply. Because creativity is not a function of time spent. And now I'm going to talk about my situation. Next. So I am an angel investor, and I invest in a number of companies that are here. I'm also a professor at Columbia University and IDE in Spain. I also have the foundation, the Varsavsky Foundation, Educar, and so on. And I have a family. I have 5 children and 1 on the way, right? And so many times when journalists interview me and all that, the first thing they ask is, how do you have time? How do you have time? How do you find time? How do you find time? That's like, and in fact, I thought of this presentation just to answer that question. How do I have time? How can I be a professor, an angel investor, run phone, and everything else? Let's move on. And then I answer, look, on top of this, I take 12-week vacations every year. And I leave the office at 2 p.m., okay? So you say, well, you do all those things, and you leave the office at 2 p.m., and you take 12-week vacation, right? And what I am going to answer now is really, what is my job? What is my job? What is the job of an entrepreneur? Is an entrepreneur the chief operating officer of his company, or is an entrepreneur the guy who has the vision and sells the vision to other people, right? What is the entrepreneur the main visionary evangelizer, the conceptual person, or is the entrepreneur the chief operating officer of his own vision, okay? So I am going to talk now about a number of things that, I'm going to talk about a number of things that I do that save me a considerable amount of time. So one of the things, so I say I have time because I don't waste time. And one of the things I do is I use social media to save me time. For example, I recruit on Twitter. I use all sorts of, I use social media. I give to social media, but the 70,000 followers I have on Twitter are a resource for me. Okay, and I use social media to work for me, not to waste my time, but to get things done. I don't watch sports, but I practice sports. Think about the incredible amount of time that people waste watching sports. I never watch anyone doing sports. I don't watch TV. If you're a guy and you don't watch sports, you have 10 years of your life for yourself, okay? The other thing I do is I don't talk on the phone, okay? I rarely speak on the phone. I use all sorts of messaging platforms, but I rarely speak on the phone. And then I don't drink or do drugs, right? Many of my friends do. And I think if you think about just drinking, think about people who normally drink and how many hours do they spend wasted in their lives. Really, just count them. Think, okay, he starts drinking at 8, wasted by midnight. I mean, that's significant. Maybe a third, a quarter of the day that you're wasted. And it's interesting because some cultures, people are wasted. Like I work a lot in Japan and also in Northern Europe, and really between 8 o'clock and midnight, people are just wasted. Okay, many of them, you know. And you say, well, how? I'm not exaggerating. There's really drinking. I think it's in terms of productivity of people drinking. I mean, look at Russia, how poorly it's doing in all sorts of things, right? It's kind of like drinking is a bad thing. Okay, I really believe that. Okay? Then the other thing is that I don't spend a lot of time grooming, okay? Like I read that the average man spends 81 minutes a day grooming. I think I spend 10 minutes, maybe take a shower. Then I don't watch TV, okay? Now, the average American spends 14 years of his life watching TV. So that's another, you got all the of course, the sports overlap with the TV. But think about all the time you gain back in your life when you don't watch TV, okay? Then I don't read a lot, but I write a lot. So people say, you're so productive, you're so productive. Well, there's a trade-off between reading and writing, okay? And you may think, well, you're an ignorant writer because you don't read. I take that point, I agree. I may be babbling, but I write a lot, okay? Now this is a crucial part of this presentation. And it's what is the job of the CEO and what is your team, right? So I owe the success of FON to these people here, okay? This is my team at FON, my COO, the top guys in technology. These people are the people who I'm grateful to every day of my life because they give me the time to do everything else, because they've been with me for 6 years in what it is to build FON. And FON is hopefully will be very soon the 5th company that I built that's worth over $500 million. Well, I owe a lot in all the other companies that I built and in this company to my teams. Now, some people say, well, when you delegate, you have to know that nothing will ever be done the way you want it, okay? You have to know that. And I know that a lot of people can't delegate because they say, well, but this is not done the way I want. But the issue is, what do you get in exchange? And why is it so useful to have everything done exactly the way you want it, when you could be doing something else for your family, your friends, yourself, and your company? Because what is the talent that is unique with you as an entrepreneur? What is the talent that is unique? The talent that is unique as an entrepreneur is that you can turn ideas into businesses, that you have something that the rest of the team doesn't quite have. And that's why they like you and you like them. But if you try to do their job, if you're a CEO, COO, I get involved everywhere, everything has my signature, then you may have an issue where the other people just hate working for you or hate you meddling so much. And I learned this the hard way because I was fired from 2 of my startups. Okay, so it took me a while. It took me to be older and wiser to realize that maybe I should leave the office at 2 o'clock. Maybe I should take 12-week vacation so I don't get fired. Okay. So this is the main conclusion here. I surround myself with people I admire. And I think that if you surround yourself with people you admire, and you're the idea, vision guy, product guy, I am the patent holder of the idea of FON. I had the idea, I am the person, so I am the idea person, the vision person, the biggest evangelizer, the salesperson of the company, but everything else is done by people who I really admire and really know how to get things done. Okay, so that concludes my presentation on time versus impact. Thank you. Yes, question.
You are a liar. Because with 5 children, you make love. How much time does it take your family?
My family takes a lot of time, and I like I said, when I leave the office at 2 or 3, and I should say that I used to live in Spain until 2 months ago. Now I moved to New York, and one of my biggest objectives is to preserve this lifestyle in a city where my lifestyle is more condemned than any possible. I mean, I come out of the closet with these revelations, and it's brutal what I hear from people because it's being called lazy in America is a bad thing. But I come home at 2 or 3. Well, in Spain, it's kind of like this. In Spain, you have lunch at 2. So I come home for lunch, let's say at 2. So you get to the office at 9, you work until 2, and then I don't go back. I pick up the kids from school, and then I spend the afternoon with the kids, the younger kids. The older kids are ready to support me and so on. So, no, but I think family and the fact that I have 5 kids and 1 on the way, I've given enormous time, my time for my children, but with this consciousness that I am not the chief operating officer of my companies, that I am the CEO of my companies, I have been able to give a lot of time to my family.
What is the first thing you do in the morning and the last thing you do in the day?
I'm not going to get into the last thing, but the first thing that I do in the morning. Like this morning, I mean, my daughter Mia woke up early, so I was with her. Then I start working. I do a lot of work from wherever I am, right? I don't need to be at the office to do it, but generally, at least in Spain, I would take the kids to school, go to the office, So kids in Spain, they start school like a little later, like at 9, and I would get to the office by 9:30. And then be at the office and have an open door policy in the office so anybody can walk in, which is absolutely unproductive if you want to do anything useful for the company, but it makes the team feel good. And that's why I also need time alone. Then I also spend I spend like maybe 10 hours a week cycling. And so when I'm cycling, I'm like sort of thinking about my things. That's my time alone that I think it's important. And then I should clarify when there's really crisis in the company or when there's important issues, this goes, I can spend 12 days in a row, Saturday, Sunday, working. It's not that this is a kosher diet that I have to follow every day. There's exceptions when there's crisis. There's exceptions when there's a roadshow. When I'm selling securities, by now I've sold billions of dollars of securities in my life, and roadshows are grueling. I'm sure some people here many people have done roadshows, and roadshows means you get on a plane, you go to 4 meetings, you get on another plane, you go to 3 meetings. Like those moments in my life completely interrupt my. But how many of those do you do? One a year, one every 2 years. So mostly my life is like this. When I have to work, when there is a crisis, I'm always there. And the people who work with me say, well, I'm on vacation, but when I'm on vacation, I'm also always connected, at least 3 hours a day. I'm answering my emails, so it's not that I'm on vacation completely disconnected. I only disconnect 1 week a year, which I am on purpose completely disconnected around New Year's time. And the rest of the year, I'm connected.
Hi, Martin. Yes. How is your time management when you start your first company? How was it?
Well, you see, that's very interesting because a lot of people say, hi, but I'm sure it wasn't like that when you started. Well, when I started my first company, I got this guy who was much older than me. My first company was, I started out of Columbia University, and it was a company that bought buildings, industrial buildings, and turned it into loft buildings in Tribeca. In fact, that company sold its last asset, the building on 11 Beach Street, for $62 million like 2 months ago. So I started that, and I closed it from school, and I closed it a few months ago. Even at that age, I realized I got myself this guy, Len Kahn, who worked with me until 2 months ago. He was older. I also needed credit, and when I was young, very young, it wasn't a great thing to be young in business. Nobody would give you money. It wasn't like now that you're very young and you get tons of money. Hopefully you're smart too. But being young really was there was a prejudice against young people in the 80s. And so I got myself an older guy who was the commissioner for leasing of the city of New York. I found a person who was great, who was brilliant, and who was underpaid, okay? And I said, I'll give you a third of my company if you run my company. My company was nothing, obviously. I didn't have a company, but then with his CV, I was able to get the investors and so on, and then we had a company, and then he ran the company. So even at that age, I developed this formula of the COO, who, by the way, I give them, in this case, I gave him a third of my stock. I give them a substantial equity ownership, so they really have skin in the game, and they really like the company, and they really want to stay, like a very stable team. Like Fon has is 6 years old, and almost everybody's been there 5 years because people are loyal and they stay. They have skin in the game. They're committed. But this is a formula that I've had all my life, but I only came out of the closet with this formula maybe 6 months ago when I said, well, I don't care. I'm just going to tell people how I work, because I kept it in hiding for so long because I feel people wouldn't respect me if I told them that I took so many vacations and left the office at 2. I found out that actually it ended up in the New York Times. It was the opposite. It became like a rarity, I don't mind. I think it is important for people to know that working hard is an illusion when you are a vision CEO, that the thing is working smart. I don't know. That hopefully things happen, and be lucky too, and be grateful to those who help you.
I really like the examples you give, the advice of not watching TV and not watching football. I don't do that either. But as you said, you rely on your team a lot, and I imagine they don't go home at 2. So I wonder how scalable is the model.
No, what I said is this model, very important. I started by saying this, and this is very important. This only applies to entrepreneurs, CEOs, visionaries in companies. The rest of your company, if they work like this, the whole thing would go to hell. Okay? This is an audience of entrepreneurs here, or an audience of people who want to be entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs. If you want to be head of biz dev in a company, or if you want to be, my advice is horrible. It will only get you fired. Okay, so this is only for people who say, well, if you run the company, do you really, really, really need to work so hard? Aren't you maybe destroying your company by putting so many hours, bugging people? Because there's always this lag between what you say and what happens. And so you're bugging, you're annoying people. I mean, like I said, I got fired out of 2 companies because I think I was annoying people. I wouldn't let them finish their work. These companies, in any case, did very well. I mean, one was Jastel, one was Viatel. Jastel is worth $2.5 billion now without me, okay? So maybe it was a great idea to fire me. But I just say that it's hard to be a restless CEO full of ideas in an organization that has thousands of people who have to do their job. And maybe leaving at 2 o'clock is a good idea just to preserve your job, you know, and to know what your role is in a company once the company gets really big. And if you're there annoying everybody all day, it may be harmful for the company.
Your model relies a lot on your team. You mentioned that you recruit with social media and other things. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you see in your team and how you build it, how you think around it?
Yeah, no, that's a very, I think interviewing is a very, very important part of the startup process. And I think the first 6 months of startup interviewing is crucial. Interviewing, building a team, it is very important to build a team. The first rule I have when I hire people is, it's kind of like, who am I not? Okay, I would call that, who am I not? And hire what you're not, okay? Like, a lot of people hire who they are, okay? And then they end up in conflict with all the people they hire, and they end up in competition with all the people they hire. I mean, concrete example, Alex Purriger, my COO, he's everything I am not. He's organized, punctual, works hard, goes to the office early. He's also extremely patient with people. He's a great guy. He's a great boss. And so he's the boss of everybody, and I work with him, okay? And because I get along super well with him, and I think he's like really amazing at his job. And he protects me from people finding out how really annoying I can be in the company, because most of them deal with him, and then they walk into my office, I give them a few ideas, I say, oh, Martin has ideas, which I do. But if they really were there trying to make me follow up on these ideas all the time, they would find me impatient, sometimes rude. Alex is Austrian, he's super polite. The psychology of all these things is very important, because when you talk about a company that's been together for 6 years and hopefully will be together for many, many years, the psychology of how people get along in a company is super important. And I never had an environment that as good as the one I have in Phone now. My other companies there was more tension in the companies, because it took me a long time to realize that the well-being of the people in the company was, and not well-being because, let's say, I'm Google and I buy them the best food on the planet, right? Like a lot of companies in America, when you say, how do you treat people? I give them great food. Okay, well, okay. In Spain, there is great food anyway. But the point is, it's not about the food. It's about, the food may be part of it, but it's about everything that happens in the company. One of the unusual things about Phone, when we fire people, we still invite them to the Christmas party. And when we have our Christmas parties, like a third of the people are people we fired, okay? And you say, well, that's so weird, right? You fire people, you invite them to your Christmas party. Yes, we do, because there's a community element to this that is very important. And we like that, and we stay in good terms. When we did poorly, we had to fire half of the people. When we did very poorly, the story I told. So we went down in personnel. Well, then I put in my blog I said, look, this is my mistake. I completely overestimated how well Fund was going to do. These are amazing people. I went to other people to hire them. I went to other entrepreneurs to hire them. There's nothing wrong about them. It's kind of like it's not you, it's me, but in business. And it kind of worked, it kind of worked. But I think now, I think Jack and Andrew are here, right? I think you guys should come and we do our conversation. Let's do that. So thank you, and now we're going to have a